What's up, everybody? Immutable IMX receives a well notice from the SEC. Don't think the SEC can't come after your coin, whatever coin it is. I know I've been holding XRP for a while and they've been relentless with Ripple. So I can only imagine the pain Immutable is feeling right now because they're going to have to go down the long road of what Ripple had to do, maybe even bankrupting their whole project. So, I mean, I wish them the best. We'll see what happens. But that's why we need Donald Trump. I mean, anybody to get Gary Gensler out of there is what we need, right? Because I fear for THETA, right? Because I'm a big THETA guy and I'm holding THETA Fuel. I don't want to wake up one day and THETA receives a Wells notice from the SEC. Man, that would be terrible. And the only way we can get around things like that is by having an SEC chairman who really wants to do right by the investors. And basically, what we really need is not the SEC going after all these companies, but we need fair, honest, level playing field regulations, right? We already passed Senator Loomis' bill through the House. I mean, now it's just dead on the water. Like, how come they didn't go through it through the Senate, right? I mean, what are they waiting for, right? I mean, they just don't do anything. So we need action when it comes to crypto. We need cold hard regulation. That's the only way it's going to work, because that way these blockchain companies, these exchanges, companies like Ripple, they can play within the law, right? Because there's no rules. So they don't really know, okay, can I do this? Can I do that? Right? I mean, you have to follow the law. And then the SEC goes, oh, well, you should have known better. Well, wait a minute. We went up to you and we asked you if we could do this. Oh, well, yeah, but they're just like, they give you the runaround, and they're the hitmen. They just want your money. That's what it's all about. It's a cash money business for the SEC going after. That's why they want it. That's why they want crypto the wild, wild west. They want it that way because they want people guessing. They want people saying, oh, I don't know, maybe it's this, maybe it's not. That way they can basically go after you whenever they feel like it. It's so corrupt. It's basically, we need this to be fixed. So hopefully Trump wins. Hopefully he fires Gary Gensler. Hopefully we get a whole new SEC. Hopefully the Senate passes the bill and Trump signs it. And that way we can have regulations. That way the SEC can't sue anyone. I mean, they can still sue people, but then you're suing them based off they broke the law. But if there's no law to be broken, right? There's no law to be broken, so then how can you bust them, right? There's no law. So, in the SEC is like, well, Congress, they need to create the laws. So sorry. Sorry for my rant, but it's just sickening because I know the feeling. I mean, I was holding a little bit of IMX, nothing substantial, but I know guys who really like immutable IMX, and man, they got slaughtered. That's what happened. So hopefully things can change. But when we look at this chart here, it's actually looking a little bit interesting to me. The reason why is because, I mean, here's a bottom, and we're right back at support. That's number one. Number two, we got a three-way move to the upside, right? So we got a three-way move to the upside, and we got a three-way move back down to the downside. So if you look at this move here, A, B, C, let's take a look at wave C. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, but I doubt that there's any divergence. No, there's no divergence. Let's see. Do we have any on the daily? No divergence on the daily. So, let's see how this thing plays out. I mean, it looks a little bearish. I mean, you can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, that's what it looks like. But you can also say 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That's 3, and then we come up for 4, and then we have 1, 2, 3, and then we get 4, and then 5 for wave 5, right? So if we got something like that where we break the low, then we can see 2025. After the 2025 is done, we can see a retracement back to the upside. Problem is, if you get 5 waves down, you usually get 3 waves up, and if you get 3 waves up, usually you have to go into reaccumulation or worse of a long C leg, so A, B, C. So just be aware of that. So, you know, it's one of those things where things are looking pretty bearish right now. So, you know, Bitcoin is back at its all-time high. It's, you know, it's right in the same area here, right? And you can see Bitcoin had a knockback. We pumped to the upside and we got knocked right back down here. So that little knock, that little price movement was enough to put, you know, like for example, theta right back down to the lows, right? So we're right teetering on the lows here. So support, support, support. So the more we hang down here, the more I'm thinking, okay, we probably need to break. We probably need to break this low. So that's why we have to, you know, an idea can be rock solid, and my idea is still rock solid, and I haven't changed it. And basically, what that idea is that this is a Wyckoff accumulation range. And this is the spring. So the thing about the spring is the spring can come all the way down and break the low, right? You also have Wyckoff schematics, for example, schematic 2, where we don't have to break the low, right? Instead, we kind of, you know, play around, and then we sort of swoop in there like a nice cupping action here, and then we kind of play around and we break out. So that right there is the classic Wyckoff look. It's kind of like a slanted M shape, right? With the last leg of the M kind of flaying upwards. So I was gonna say flaring upwards. Flaying, what the hell is that? Yeah, that's schematic 1 right there. And basically what I want to see here for theta and for all of the other cryptos that look like this, and there's a lot of them. We want to see something. Let's put a yellow. We got 3 up. We got 3 up. Come back down. Come back down. Hit the high. Hit the high. And then you kind of swirl around. So let's see. We have 3 waves to the downside, right? And in this third wave here, it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe we'll look at the smaller time frames in a minute. But we're right down here, so we want to start swooping back, just like how we did it here, right? We want to start swooping back over and then continuing higher. So that's what I want to see. That's a great idea. I mean, there's no reason why that idea can't play out. Obviously, Bitcoin and the stock market and the dollar have much more influence than the price of theta itself, right? Because if a chart looks a certain way, right? Well, if Bitcoin is, it is coming on down, having a bigger correction, Bitcoin doesn't care if theta is way down at its lows, right? So then it brings me to the other idea, which is the same idea, except it's a different Wyckoff schematic. It's schematic 1, so check this out. And this was actually the Wyckoff pattern that put my channel on the map, if you want to be honest, because this exact chart, we lined it up perfectly back over here, right? It was a different time frame, but you can see this was a Wyckoff pattern, right? We came up, hit the low, came back up, and then we came down and we grabbed that liquidity and then we shot up, right? Same thing here. We came down, look at this. Here's the low, We broke the low ever so slightly. You see that right there? That was the best possible entry. I mean, that was an entry of a lifetime right there. That Wyckoff, that spring, and then bam, we shot up. So that's kind of what I'm thinking is going to happen over here. If not, by some miracle, schematic 2 would be better. This is schematic 1. So which one do you guys think? Is it going to... I mean, if Bitcoin still needs further down to correct, right, and some of the altcoins do, then you would think, well, yeah, maybe there's a good chance that we can. But one way is if we start holding support in here. Because we've been falling, for a little while now. Let's see. That was back in September. I mean, there's been no October. I mean, we've been falling. Basically, that was the end of September. So all of October, right? And October's finished. So we've been falling for 1 month. Down, 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 all the way back to support. Right? And I think because everybody expected Uptober, but I was saying, why would we get Uptober if we had an up September? It doesn't make sense to have another Uptober, right? So that's where I felt like, I don't know. I think we're going to need to come down, especially because we had 3, right? You want to get 3 again. So let's see if we can match this one up here. So if we put a line right about there, and you can see pretty clearly if this thing wants to, for example, like 1, 2, actually I don't like that. I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And basically we break this line to the downside. And everybody thinks, oh no, we're crashing, because we built this range since August. This is going back since August. So think of the psychology in here, right? People want to believe it's the bottom, and I do believe we're very, very close. I think there's going to be a lot of deception, especially when we're coming from up here. I mean, we're coming from way up here, right? And we're going down, 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 and then we hit here. So at the least, we sort of need a little bit of a retracement if we want a complete breakdown. But if it's not going to be a complete breakdown, then it's going to be a Wyckoff spring, right? And basically you kind of, work your way down. You can see right there, and then you push your way back up, and then it's like it was nothing, right? So that's confluent with 3 up, and then you get 3 down. So boom, right? Boom, boom. So that's basically what I'm thinking here. So if we zoom out, let's get rid of that one. Okay, if we zoom out, and let's say for the sake of argument that we do have to make a new low, right? So again, I mean, another thing too is we have this wick right here. So, that's another important area. But the closes are more important than that wick. So that wick is right at 88 cents. So if we dropped from now, for where we are now, down to that wick, I mean, guys, that's 20%. So I just can't really, it's possible. It's very, very possible we could break that wick to the downside. But if we did that, we would lose the 1, 2, 1, 2 because, 1, 2, 1, 2, right? If this falls lower, then you're going below the first 1, 2, right? So you can say, well, we already did that. Look, we barely missed it. Here's the 1, 2, here's the 2. Right? And then here's that wick. We came very close from invalidating that 1, 2, 1, 2. That's why I don't think we're gonna break it to the downside. I mean, we very well could, but I'm in the camp. I'm believing that we're building a base down in here, because if you look, we've had a complete crashing structure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 6 rolls back up into wave 3 of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So basically it's a 7-wave crashing structure. The problem is we only have 3, right? So if you get 3 up and then 3 down, what I'm saying is if this thing wants to crash, it really needs to have a bigger 3-wave move to the upside and then crash, because this resets the momentum. This sort of recalibrates the selling pressure. Because how many people are selling right now, right? And a lot of it too is liquidity drying up, liquidity leaving the market, going to safety because of the election, because of the dollar, because of the stock market, because of whatever reason, right? A lot of people are selling their crypto, putting it into gold, and that's going to be a big mistake, I think. But if this is going to be, because if you look here, this 3-wave move and this 3-wave move looks like it's in the same degree, right? But if this is wave 1 or wave A, this can't be wave B. Wave B needs to be bigger. It needs to be like this. And then you go down, right? So what I'm saying is, if we do continue going down, I think that's why I believe it's going to be short-lived. I don't think it's going to be like we're crashing, right? I don't think, we're going down to 66 cents. I mean, there is a gap right in here. You can see this gap right there. It was never tested, right? So if we do end up coming down here, I mean, it's really hard for me to picture that right now, but it's at the end of the day, right? We have to look at the facts, and the facts are what Bitcoin is doing, right? So let's take a look at Bitcoin, and then we'll circle back around, because the way I see theta crashing is if this is a diagonal, which looks extremely like one. I mean, look at it. Nobody's really talking about it. So you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what is a diagonal? This is a diagonal right here. So you can see, like, if you match it up here, let's throw some trend lines on, and let's just be, sort of following the rules here. And I mean, they're not completely perfect, but you can kind of see. And we had an overthrow. Overthrows are very common. Look at this. Even the example has an overthrow. You see that? So this has a lot of diagonal look to me. I mean, this is, that's why it was one of the main ideas here. So, the other one is if it's a 1, 2, 1, 2, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the third, we pull back for a 4, and then we just rocket ship up. So let's see if that's the case. But honestly, the more rational thing would be if it's a diagonal. So what I'm saying here is, let me put the annotations on so we can have it nice and clear here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then we have this ABC pullback that pulls right back into wave 4. You can see that, right? So A, B, C, right back into wave 4 around there. And then that would be your wave 1. This is going to be your wave 2. And the good thing is we haven't even begun wave 3. And then we shoot up, right, into a wave 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be wave 3, probably around 90, 100K. Then you have a big correction. You flag out a lot, right? And then you hit the wave 5, which could probably get us up to 110, 115, 120. I mean, who knows? Even 125. So this is the main idea, guys, for Bitcoin. Okay? And why I like this idea a lot is because you can see you have a shoulder, right? You have a shoulder, you have a head, and you're right back at resistance. But look, we don't have a right shoulder. So this three-way pullback could be responsible for the right shoulder, right? And then it makes more sense. And then we also pull back down to about 60K, right? Because you hit 72K, everyone's like, there's no way we're going back to 60. And then all of a sudden, a couple months later, you're right back at 60, which probably means we're going to have a bearish November, a bearish December, right? And then, and that makes sense too because of the election, right? Because think about it. If Trump and Kamala don't concede, right? And I'm going to tell you what I think about it in just a moment. But I think ultimately Trump's going to win. And people say, why would you say that? Don't say that. Because if he loses, you're going to look like an idiot. I mean, look, yeah, you probably will. But you know what? I got to go for the guy who's got a clear understanding of crypto. And that's the way I got to go. I don't care about women, trans crap. I mean, a lot of people do, whatever. I mean, that's not my field. I care about money, right? If you asked a trans woman, what's more important, money or trans rights? I would, when push comes to shove, they're going to, it's the economy, stupid. Remember the old saying back in the political days? It's the economy, stupid. But anyway, that I think, and crypto is the building block of the new financial system of which is going to be basically the new economy. So anyways, I think Trump's going to win. They're going to come out and say he cheated. And then what's going to happen is it's going to drag on. And then finally, because we still have 3 months after and once the election is over, we still have 3 months until somebody takes office. So here's the new theory. I've never told you this before, and this is very, very top secret stuff. So ready? I was talking to somebody, and what they think is that, well, let me jump into that in just a second. But essentially where I'm going with this is there's going to be chaos. And that chaos allows us to flag out. And then once the chaos ends and somebody takes office, and then it's, all of the pain and the stress, and because it's very stressful during the transition period, right? Because you got to pick a cabinet, you got to, there's things going on. There's probably certifying the election. There's all kinds of stuff going on, right? And if people are saying there's election interference, there's a cyber attack, the left cheated, right? On both sides, you can say that. And so it's going to create a lot of panic and fear and uncertainty, right? It makes people feel unconfident. Like, it makes them feel like, man, we don't know what's going to happen. So when people have a feeling of like there's no security, right? They're going to feel fear, and the markets could feel fear. But once it's figured out by January, whatever, whoever takes office, maybe it is Kamala, right? And then what happens? We blast off, okay? So that's what I believe is what's going to happen. The theory is that, here's theory number one, which is they switch Kamala out, but that's in the trash. That's in the garbage. Remember that? Joe Biden, he called Trump supporters garbage, and the left or the right just been like, oh, how dare you say that? And it's kind of like, I mean, look, people say names on both sides, but they use it as political points, right? I mean, how many times has Trump said worse things than garbage? But he doesn't say it to their supporters. He says it to the people, his actual opponents. But anyways, the first theory is that Trump wins, right? And then it's a razor tight race. Trump wins, and then, it might drag on for a couple days. And they might not announce him the winner the first day. I don't think they're going to announce a winner for weeks. Okay. But I think he's going to win, and they're going to say, oh, I mean, well, first, what they're going to do is they're going to try to have Kamala win, right? So it's election night, and Trump's winning some states, Kamala's winning some states. Then we wake up the next morning and we still don't know. And then the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day. And then finally, it was too big to rig, and Trump finally wins. And then they come out and say, oh, well, we were hit by an election, something like a cyber attack. Like came from Russia, it came from China, it came from all his dictator friends. Right? Trump, he's a dictator and he hangs out with dictators and blah, 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 blah. Right? And they basically, helped them out by interfering in our election. Democracy is at stake. And then what you're going to see is all these riots in the streets. You're going to see pandemonium. You're going to see Antifa. You're going to see all kinds of crap going on. Right? And then you're going to even see outrage from Trump supporters saying, no, he didn't cheat. There was no interference, blah, blah, blah. But what I think is going to happen is either that or Kamala, they're going to print so many ballots that it's going to look like they cheated. Right? I mean, who knows how many Joe Biden had more votes than any other president in history. But I think a lot of those were fake ballots. Now, if Kamala passes him up, how is that possible when, in fact, Kamala's less popular? A lot of people are turning against her, like Black, Hispanic Americans. If you look at all the demographics, they were very strong with Biden, but they're very weak with Kamala. So if Kamala gets, let's say she gets 90 million or 100 million votes, that's 100 million people, right? I think Joe Biden got like 60, 70, 80 million votes, or I don't know. But I think Trump got 64 and Biden got like 80 million, right? So if Kamala gets 90 million, it's going to seem very suspicious and fishy, right? So they're going to declare her as the winner. So this is the first, I guess you could say, conspiracy or prediction is Trump wins, and then there's a cyber attack, and they blame that on why he won. The second one is that they print so many ballots that Kamala wins, and they say Trump lost, so they don't need the cyber attack narrative. They don't need the election interference narrative. But now Trump supporters are on the defense, and they have to come out and say, no, she cheated. And there's going to be a lot of court cases. There's going to be a lot of forensic analysis and all this stuff. So either way you put it, it's going to be absolutely chaos. And hopefully it's all said and done so we can stop talking about it, right? But I have to talk about it because it plays right in the hands of what's going on. I mean, think about it. The election is 5 days away, and Bitcoin's sitting here right at the very tippy top of the chart, right? Of this resistance in here. So, if we have I pray that we have a smooth and clean election, right? And then Trump wins, we flag out a little bit, and we just break to the upside, right? Very simple. That's what I'm praying. That's what I'm hoping for. But if they have to cheat so much where they win a lot of these battleground states unexpectedly, right? Because they want you to believe like, oh, Trump's winning and this and that. And he is, but it's all a psychological game for them. So it's going to be very interesting what happens over the next couple days here. So, yeah, that's basically the theory. Theory number one, Trump wins, election interference, or a cyber attack, or number two, Kamala wins and the left cheated. So those are the two narratives, right? Kamala wins, left cheated, versus Trump wins, cyber attack, election interference. So I think, now that I think about it, I think I mean, there's so that's why they want it too big to rig, because if there's so many Trump supporters out there that are voting for Trump, it's going to be, it's easy to cheat if it's razor thin. But if you're winning by 25%, it's very hard to cheat. You're going to need a lot of ballots, and it's going to look very fishy. It's going to look super suspicious, right? And I think now that Elon Musk is in control of X, I think there's going to be a lot of video footage on social media about people, walking out the back door with a bunch of ballots or throwing them in the dumpster. I mean, we saw that in 2020, right? Or people, burning ballots, or people like, changing the votes, or you can see the machines, right? Because, it's highly, there's a lot of cheating, and don't think it's not possible. I think it's more than possible, and it's the way the deep state operates. So very, very much a shame. And a lot of it has to do with these illegal aliens too. That's why we need voter ID. We need voter ID. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, just look at this. These are all the heat map of where the illegals are. But look, that's the same areas as where the Democrats win their votes. I mean, they want you to believe it's 50-50, the country's divided. The country's not divided. It's like 80, it's like 75-25. I mean, it's not a lot. So, I mean, this goes back to 2018. I mean, look what they said. Senior administration officials warn that Russia will try to undermine upcoming U.S. elections, right? So that's what, I mean, they've done it before. Why is it so crazy to think that they can't do it again? I think that's going to be number one. So if Trump's winning by a lot, they're going to play the interference Russia card. If Kamala's winning by a lot, then Trump is going to come out and say, the elections are rigged and stolen. But here's the thing. I think that the biggest problem we have, obviously election interference is a real thing, but it's not to what they're saying. The real problem is election fraud, right? So how do we as a nation clean up the election fraud? Well, what if you did this? What if you win the election, right, and then come out and say, you know what? There was fraud. Nobody would do that, right? Nobody would admit that there's fraud if they won. But I think no matter what happens, election fraud is going to be at the top of the list for people understanding just how screwed up these elections are. That's why we need blockchain elections, right? We need a decentralized blockchain where we can vote. None of these machines, none of these paper ballots that could be easily destroyed, right? So anyway, that's enough of that. But I mean, even Google, right? There's Google insiders back in 2016, and they said, yeah, Google was influenced. So there's a lot of things at play here. So we'll see exactly how this election plays out. I don't claim to know exactly what's going to happen. I'm just making my opinions, my predictions, what I think. I could be totally wrong. Just know that, right? I'm not sitting up here thinking like I know exactly what it's going to be. I don't. But I'm just giving you my impressions from what I've learned and from what I see. So, anyways, moving on. When we look at XRP, it's very challenging at the moment. I mean, I still look at this. I mean, the longer this plays on, the more I'm falling out of love with this play here, which is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, A, B, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, C, A, B, C, right? It's a flat. So if it's a flat, then this should be our wave 1, our wave 2, and we should get going here in a little bit, 4 or 5. I mean, that's kind of the setup that you want to see. But if Bitcoin has to pull back, right? I mean, by the way, look at the divergence here on Bitcoin. I mean, you can kind of see They both shot up, but then XRP was hanging up here, Bitcoin's hanging down here, and now Bitcoin's going up, XRP's kind of going down. So eventually they'll meet back together. But if this is a diagonal for Bitcoin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we should flag out in here, well, then we should see maybe an ending diag for XRP. So like maybe like a 1, we get a 2, right? Something like that. And then we get a 3, 4, and 5. So kind of like an ending move, kind of like maybe a falling wedge in here. Something to that extent, and then breaks this out. Because I'm trying to see like, okay, if Bitcoin has to flag out in a 3-way move, then how is that going to translate to some of these altcoins? Well, we could see something like that. But if Bitcoin is going to do that 1, 2, 1, 2, and it's going to break out a lot sooner than we think it is, right? I mean, you can see we are pulling back a little bit, and I want to talk about that first before I move any further down the road with XRP. Let's take a look at the 4-hour chart. We can see we came, right, and we broke out, and now we came down, we back tested. So yesterday I said this could be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but now, right, you can see what happened. You see that big wick there? We came up, we got a big wick, and then we got rejected hard. So this tells me it's probably a 5-wave move, which means it's going to be a more complex correction. Of course it is, right? It can never be too easy. So the way I look at it is like you have a 1, 2, right? This is 3, this is 4, and now we're coming down for 5. So that's your A, okay? Maybe 5's not finished. Maybe we got to go down further. But then you come up and you get a B, right? Probably going into the election. And then once the election happens, we're going down, right? So let me zoom out. Let's see if I can zoom out a little bit more to right about there. Okay. So if this is an A, and then we come up into a B, and then we come down and we get C. Would that be enough? I don't think so. I think it has to be bigger than that, because if you look at this, I mean, that's the same size, and it's in a larger degree. So if this whole thing is a wave 1, right, then, you know, these small pullbacks in here are at a lower degree than what we should get for a pullback in the higher degree, right? So I think let's just take it day by day. You know, let's try not to get ahead of ourselves. But I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're right back at support in here. So I think we got to go a little bit lower. And then I want to see a retracement. Let's go to a smaller time frame here. Yeah, it looks a little bearish. I don't like when they do that, how they bring it right up and then they bring it right down. So, you know, it's kind of like one of those things where we have to just wait. So if I take this off, did we break the low? We did. We did break the low. Is there any divergence? There is. I mean, we got some pretty decent divergence here. If you want to know the truth, it's not so much, but it's there, right? And that's something you would expect with a 5-wave move. So if I zoom in even closer, like to the 15-minute, I mean, we could have bottomed, right? I mean, look at this. We have like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now we're starting to come up. So maybe if it's finished, right, we want to see a retracement, and then let's see what happens over here. We can either flag out, continue higher, and like an ABC, or this still has to continue rocking to the downside. But on the face of it, right, I want to see this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once it's finished, I want to see a three-way move back to the upside and then finish A, B, C, right? So that's pretty much it for Bitcoin. Let's look at the monthly chart, right? The monthly candle ended. So now we're in a brand new month and we officially made a new monthly high close. That's important because throughout this whole correction, we've been, here's a low, lower low, lower low, lower low, right? We finally made a higher low on 1, 2, 3 candles, which is very significant. So you can see this big green candle here. So don't be surprised if the following candle actually comes back and retests that 50% right in there, right around, I think that's like about 66K or so. So I think that's kind of where we're going. I think between 64 and 66K is where we're going this month. And from there, once we fill in those orders, once we fill in some of those, creating a bigger volume profile in some of these areas, I think at that point, we come down here and we correct and we can continue moving higher. So if you turn on the sequential, look at this. Here's the 9 on the weekly chart, which printed these red dots. So this is the grand finale right here. The most important chart in crypto right here is the weekly chart, which is these red dots. And you can see it wasn't ready yet. We tried to break through the red dot, and then we came right back below it. So this is TD sequential saying, hey, we're not quite ready yet. So these red dots come in right at 71.4K. All right. So, I'm not surprised because when we go up, right, we lose momentum. So what we need to do is we need to reset that momentum, right? So we have a shoulder, a head, and a shoulder. So that's kind of the way I'm seeing it. And then the other side of it is if this is a 1, 2, 1, 2, and this is a 1, 2, right, of the third, we flag out a little bit, and then we break out. So we don't need a big one. So it's basically going to be a little flag or it's going to be a big flag. But either way, I think once it's finished, I think we're breaking out here. So let's go to the altcoins. So you look at something like Matic, and it's like, man, it's rock bottom here. I mean, we're right at support, support, support. So either this is the buy of a lifetime or it's basically going to die. And I don't think it is because, Trump, remember his first NFT collection he ever done, he put it on Polygon. And his team did a lot of research. So I don't think it's going anywhere. The way I see it, we got a beautiful three-way move. Look at this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So we need some kind of 3 up, right? Because if this is kind of forming like a triangle, we need something like that. All right? So everybody disregards the altcoins at the wrong time. Now, I'm not saying this is the right time. I still think they need a lot of work to do. Like, when you look at AVAX on the weekly, you kind of broke out a little bit, but it's only got a 3-wave shape. I feel like it needs to come down like this and build a base before going higher, which means we probably got more downside. So let's keep looking here. When you look at coins like this, they kind of moved up, they came down, now they're kind of consolidating, kind of bearish. So they could come down and drop the low, but I think ultimately they're getting pretty close. THETA is one I was kind of hoping we can stay a little bit above that area we just dropped below. Like for example, we made a new low in TIA, but here's what I'm looking at. I think it's bottlenecking. So I got out of it because of that. You can see how we drop in and now we're kind of bottlenecking in here. So maybe we need some capitulation. Do you want to know the number one way we can turn this market around? Do you want to know how we can get an alt season? Do you want to know how we can blast off into the moon? Well, the best way to do that is capitulation. If we have full-on blood in the street capitulation, right? Like for example, back in C19 days, right? Way back in the day here, that was capitulation. You see that, right? And that is kind of what potentially is happening now. I mean, if you want to know the truth, if we did get some kind of capitulation, you can see how we're kind of building a base in here. We hit the high, and then it was just a complete and utter crash. But that was ripping the Band-Aid off. That was ripping the duct tape off super fast, right? And basically going on your way. So C19 capitulation totally marked the low for all markets, right? So what I'm saying is, if we did get some kind of capitulation, let me see here. Yeah, so you can see how we're kind of coming down. You play, hit the top, capitulation. So if we look, let me get this off. If we look over here, come on down, build a little base, maybe we hit the high, and then capitulation. Okay, and then you kind of get on your way and moving higher. So, we could get something like that. But I think in order to get capitulation, you kind of need a rally going into it. So maybe I'm just throwing alternative ideas. These are not my main ideas. These are alternative ideas. So like if we come down, we play around, we shoot to the upside real fast, right? We break this liquidity and then we just dump. And then that's it. That's the end. That marks the end. Now it's all clear skies. So, but during capitulation, that's when everybody gives up. That's when everybody throws in the towel. And that's when everybody doesn't buy the dip. Why would they buy the dip if they're selling, right? If they're scared, if they feel like it's going to go lower. The reason I'm not scared and I'm not doing that is because we've been going down for so long, right? So eventually this wave's going to end. And if it could have already ended now, right? And here's the thing. We kind of had C19 capitulation. Look at this. Look, it's the same thing. We kind of played a little bit there. We hit the top, and look at this. We had a monster dump to the downside. So that's what I'm saying. I think there's evidence to say that we've already had capitulation. Remember that right during August, there was a huge massacre in a lot of these markets. And it looks just like C19 in a way. So what happened after C19? Well, you can see how corrective it looked, right? It was just all choppy correctiveness before we kind of got going here, right? So if we look at what we're doing now, it's the same kind of thing, choppiness, right? We got 3 up, we got 3 down. Maybe we move a little bit sideways and we kind of start just eventually moving our way higher. So I can definitely see this 3-wave move here. So anyway, that's just an alternative idea discussing capitulation. But how would that affect something like total 3? Well, here's the biggest problem I see is, number 1, Bitcoin looks like a diagonal. And number 2, total 3 hasn't came back down to the lows yet, right? I mean, we technically hit it once, twice, 3 times. Maybe it's all that it needs. So we kind of have 3 up, and you have this 3-wave move here, right? So maybe we get another 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So kind of like a proper ABC back down to the downside, and then you kind of get like a little bit of a capitulation here, and then we start rocking our way to the upside. So if that's the case, if we had to drop like that to the downside, then how does that affect something like maybe theta? Or let's look at theta fuel, since we haven't looked at it. Well, the thing is theta fuel is already at resistance here, and I already see a three-way move. So what I want to see from theta fuel is I want to see a little bit of a bounce back up to here. And if we get rejected here, then I can say, well, maybe we got one more low, one more hit to the low because of total 3, right? Remember total 3, let's put it on actually so we can look at it right here, right there, right? You can see the divergence in total 3 and theta fuel. You see that they're correlated and then they diverted. So if total 3 has to be like A, B, C, something a little bigger, so 3 up and 3 down, right? Well, we kind of need a little bit of a bounce first, and then maybe we drop back down. We take out these lows in here, and then we go up. That would be a Wyckoff spring. That would be a liquidity grab right there. So I can totally see that happening. I mean, because let's just be honest here. All we have is a three-way move to the upside. There's nothing to say that the low is completely in except for the crashing structure. That's the amount of waves you want, right? I mean, we have 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But we have a three-way pullback. If this comes down a little bit further and we break these lows, I'm going to expect a quick reversal to get back up here. And then what we have is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's an A. And then we have 1, 2, 3. That's a B. And then we kind of go into reaccumulation, and then we blast off at a later day, right? Or it can come down for a C, but I doubt that. We're just going to have to wait and see here. So, yeah, anytime you bounce off a low like this, so you're coming down, you bounce off a low, you come back up, right? And then you start swooping down, and it's drizzling and drizzling and drizzling. It's eventually leading into like a dump, but followed by a quick reversal, right? Back to the upside. So you kind of get like a flat. I mean, it happens all the time. Here's like a little bit of an example here. The time frame's a little high to see the detail in the candles, but essentially you had this move, right? And here's your base, and you basically drop down real quick. You grab that liquidity, and then you shot very fast to the upside, and it was kind of like 3, 3, 5. It was a flat. So that's all I'm saying. So if we look at this, as a fractal, you can kind of say like, we have this move to the downside. We're consolidating, right? It's looking okay, but then we have this flush. So all I'm saying is be prepared for a flush. That's all I'm saying. But if we got the flush, then I think that will mark the low. And I know it's not what people exactly want to hear, but I'm telling you, I think once this thing's finished, it's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be phenomenal. I mean, you can see when we look at something like Filecoin, for example. I mean, just look at the base right in here, right? You can see it. Look at this in here. The peaks, right? The little quick moves, So, I mean, when you look at the wave structure, we're very close. Now, is it possible we could have something that quickly falls down and then shoots back up like a big flush? Yes. And that's kind of what I'm thinking. If Bitcoin's going to play out in that diagonal, right, and the altcoins are very sensitive, then we could actually come down and take out this liquidity. And then there's capitulation. Everybody's breaking their lows. But then all of a sudden, boom, it just kicks off into high gear and then it starts rolling to the upside. So that's kind of what I'm thinking here. And we don't have to create another big base because this whole thing would be the base. So, you look at something like Total 2, it kind of makes sense. You see this trend line here, right? It kind of looks like an ascending triangle. So we could very well break out. But, it doesn't seem like it at the moment. So there's a lot of liquidity here. So we can easily just kind of flag out in here, right? Coming up, coming down, resetting itself, and then taking off. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. So our fractal from SHIB looks like it's invalidated. So we were looking at this fractal. Look, it was looking good, but it's too, I mean, it could still play out, but it's not as likely at the moment. I mean, you technically do have a nice three-wave move back down to support. We're building a little bit of base. We're kind of going up. So let's see how it recovers. I'm expecting a retracement here with SHIB. So you have point A, you have point B. Let's get to point C and then decide up or down. Here's the others chart. This could be A, B, and then you have like 1, 2, you get 3, 4, and 5. Right? So you have 3 up, you have 3 down, and then you continue higher. So for the coins that are already down here, like THETA, if this has to go further down, you would think, okay, THETA does as well. And I think so, but I think it would be, like I said, like a liquidity grab, like the spring phase. I mean, you could see it really good with H bar. I mean, look at H bar is already breaking down. So you have support, support, right? So we're already down in here. So it kind of looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Kind of looks like an ABC. Maybe you get a little bit more of a push, and then we swoop back around. But, if the correction's just starting, then it might be a little bit deeper than that. But I just feel like we need a little bit of a bounce. Because if you think about it, Bitcoin hit an all-time high in market cap. It's basically right at the all-time high. And for the altcoins to continue to bleed down, I mean, eventually you're going to get a big short squeeze coming soon. If we compare that to like Fetch, I mean, a lot of coins are back down at their lows, but Fetch, I mean, it's got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's got an ABC pullback. It's got a lot of wiggle room. The DXY has actually got a big pump today, so that's another reason why we're kind of bleeding out here. But I think once this move is finished, let's put a retracement on here. Once this move is finished, we're right at the 618, guys. So let's see. I mean, eventually we need a little bit of a pullback here. Let's see if we can maybe get a little bit higher, but ultimately we want to come back down. You can see the stock market pulling back right now. So let's see if we can reset it. But what we really don't want, though, that's why I said before, we don't want to pump in the beginning of the week because it makes the end of the week bearish, right? And you can see this big wick. If the weekly candle closes where it's at, it's kind of going to be a little bit bearish, right? Because that's a big nasty rejection wick, right? But if we're using our diagonal idea, then it makes sense as to why we have that pretty big wick. But we don't want it to close any lower. Like, we really need it to close above these highs. I mean, we really do. So hopefully we do. But we're still above the downward resistance line. And if we did have that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we did have that ABC, and we flag out in here, hopefully we can stay above the downward resistance line and then start to shoot up. So 1, 2. You can see Bitcoin dominance was bottlenecking in here. It dropped down, it's bottlenecking, and now it's shooting to the upside. So it could get a lot. It can go up to 70%. But I'm thinking more like 63%. About 62, 63%, I think, is where Uh, actually between 64 and 67 looks good. If you look at something like ADA, you can kind of see it's still holding nice and tight in here, right? Nothing's wrong with it. But if we zoom in, we can see, right, obviously what we've been looking at, 3 up, and you can see 3 down. We came right back to support, and then we impulsed off the low, and now we're kind of flagging out in here. So let's see if we can keep pushing. So anyways, I think that'll do it for this video. I mean, just be on the lookout. If Bitcoin, you have this diagonal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and if you get the ABC pullback, right, then we could see something like that, right, where we kind of, maybe that's a bad drawing, but something to that effect. It actually, now that I look at it, it actually looks a lot stronger than a lot of these other ones. I mean, this is the market cap, but you can see it's pumping a little bit here. Let's look at Aave. Look at Aave, it's not pumping at all. QNT's barely doing anything. Let's see, Tone's getting a little bit of a pump. I'm just kind of comparing them here. THETA is barely getting a pump. I mean, ADA had a nice pump there. Bitcoin, I know IMX is just capitulating. XRP has a little bit of a pump. THETA is dumping. CRV is, let's see, what's CRV doing? I'm just, I want to see how a lot of these altcoins react. I want to see how they react in their corrections, and I want to see how they react in their recoveries, right? Because, I mean, most of them, they had a big dump. Most of them had a recovery. Most of them had a pullback. And most of them are having another, like a bounce. So let's look at ADA again. Axelar, not really a bounce. Boom. I mean, look at this. We had a pretty big dump to the downside. So you need a little bit of a retracement before you go down or before you make another decision. So don't think it's just going to go down, 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 down. I just don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, a lot of these look like decent longing opportunities at the moment. I mean, it looks like this is going to go up. That's what it looks like. But then once we get here, I mean, then what happens, right? That's why I think a lot of these altcoins are so undervalued compared to where Bitcoin is. You can say SUI is popping up. Look at that. You had a big impulse, you had a 3-way pullback, and now you're starting to go higher. Maybe we'll see if we can break out, right? We'll see. Zcash, nothing there. You can see, yeah, not there. I'm trying to get back to ADA. You can see Bitcoin Cash, right? You slam all the way down. Kind of looks like 3, 3, and 5. A, B, C. It looks like a flat. So, I mean, honestly, it looks like we got a little bit of upside coming soon. At least for the short term. Looks like we got a little bit of upside, maybe a couple days, maybe even a week. On the small time frames, right? I mean, some of them look like they still need more down, But let's see, Matic. You can see Matic is actually holding the lows in here. I mean, heck, you can even see total 3 came down and starting to pump to the upside now. Okay, so here's ADA, and you can see it's climbing back up. It actually had a big recovery. Let's go back to the 4-hour. Yeah, so if we can compare that to, like, let's say THETA, I mean, you can see the difference, right? So would I buy ADA? It's already up here, or would I buy THETA if it's down here? It's got more catching up to do. I mean, it's kind of both sides. You can see the argument. So, I mean, here we are. You know, we kind of have 1, 2. We have 3. It looks like this is a flat for a 4 and then 5. I think it's finished. I think it's finished at least for a little while. And then you can kind of see a bit of an impulse here. And then we have this 3-wave move. Look at that. We have an impulse and we have an ABC move. We have a 3-wave move here. And now we're starting to pump. So anyways, guys, that'll do it for real this time. I will catch you guys on the next one. If you can't hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.